When the Sephardic communities left Iberia, many rebuilt their commercial networks in places such as Amsterdam. From there, those merchant connections extended across the Atlantic world, including the West African coast. Today we're going to follow that African chapter. Before the Atlantic world became a vast commercial system, there were already networks connecting Europe, North Africa, and West Africa. The story begins not with ships, not with colonies, but with maps. Maps created by some of the most skilled cartographers of the medieval world. And those maps reveal that West Africa was known, documented, and connected long before the height of Atlantic commerce. One of the most famous maps of the medieval world is the Catalan Atlas of 1375. The atlas is generally attributed to Abraham Cresques and the Majorcan cartographic tradition. These cartographers combined information from merchants, sailors, diplomats, and trans-Saharan trade networks. West Africa was not a blank space. It was a known world, a world of kingdoms, trade routes, and immense wealth. Here we find one of the most famous images in medieval cartography, Mansa Musa, the ruler of Mali. The map describes him as, "This black lord is called Mus Meli." Notice what the cartographer is emphasizing: gold, commerce, power. The wealth of West Africa was important enough to be recorded on one of the most influential maps of its era. Fast forward nearly 3 centuries, the center of gravity shifts north to Amsterdam, a city that would become one of the most important commercial hubs in the Atlantic world. Merchants from across Europe gathered here, including large numbers of Portuguese Sephardic Jews who had left Iberia following the expulsions and persecutions of the late 15th century. This neighborhood became one of the foundations of the Portuguese Sephardic community. From here, merchants financed voyages, created trading partnerships, and built commercial networks that stretched across oceans, not only to Brazil, not only to the Caribbean, but also to West Africa. Let's leave modern summaries behind and go directly to the source. This page comes from Felipe Ribeiro da Silva's study of Portuguese Sephardic merchants in West Africa. Notice the reference to commercial agents traveling to the western coast of Africa. Simão Rodrigues de Noé, Diogo Vaz, and Geronimo Freire, the latter also known among the members of the community by the name of Jacob Peregrino or Pellegrino, were 3 of these men. This is one of the reasons I wanted to show the actual source page. Jacob Peregrino is not appearing in folklore or internet discussions. He's appearing in academic research built from Amsterdam notarial records. Here we see him identified directly within the commercial networks connecting Amsterdam and West Africa. They should also obtain a statement from Queridos Factor in the region at the time, Jacob Pellegrino. Notice something else. Peregrino isn't simply mentioned as a religious figure. He's functioning as a factor, essentially a commercial representative operating in the region. This places him directly inside the trade networks linking Amsterdam merchants to the West African coast. The source is describing direct involvement, not rumors, not legends, actual merchants operating between Amsterdam and West Africa. The document records merchants traveling to Cape Verde and participating directly in transactions on the western coast of Africa. This is one of the mechanisms that linked Amsterdam's commercial world to African markets. Now we move directly into Senegambia. This region became one of the most important contact zones between African rulers, local merchants, land caudles, and Atlantic traders. The map allows us to see the geography that shaped these interactions. Look closely: Joal, Rufisque, the Petite, Côte. These locations appear repeatedly in the historical record. According to several sources, Sephardic merchants, land caudles, and their descendants operated within this region. Many intermarried with local African families. Many became cultural and commercial intermediaries. Their communities existed between worlds, African and European, local and Atlantic. The documentary record also reveals another side of the story, one that cannot be ignored. This passage discusses commercial activity connected to Angola. In Angola, the main activity of the Portuguese Jewish merchants of Amsterdam appears to have been the slave trade and purchase of ivory. That's a remarkably direct statement. The author is not speculating. She's summarizing the archival record. By this period, some of the merchant networks connecting Amsterdam and West Africa were participating in both the ivory trade and the trade in enslaved people. During the period under study, Diogo Nunes Belmonte appears among the most active businessmen in the region. Notice that the source is naming individuals. We're moving beyond broad historical categories and into documented merchants operating within these networks. The ships freighted by Belmonte to trade with Angola were mainly busy with the transport of slaves from Angola to the Spanish America. In Angola, the main activity of the Portuguese Jewish merchants of Amsterdam appears to have been the slave trade and purchase of ivory. That single sentence changes the tone of the story. Up to this point, we've been looking at maps, merchant communities, and commercial networks. Here we see another reality of the Atlantic economy. During the period under study, Diogo Nunes Belmonte appears among the most active businessmen in the region. The sources are now identifying specific merchants and specific commercial operations. The ships freighted by Belmonte to trade with the Angola were mainly busy with the transport of slaves from Angola to the Spanish Americas. The same networks that connected Amsterdam, Senegal, and West Africa also became part of the larger Atlantic slave system. The historical record preserves both sides of that story. Trade across West Africa was not measured only in gold and ivory. Ships also carried manufactured goods, cloth, metalware, weapons, and glass beads. Historical records show that Venetian workshops on the island of Murano produced enormous quantities of glass beads for export through commercial centers such as Lisbon, Amsterdam, and London. In many parts of West Africa, these beads were far more than decoration. They were valued trade goods, status symbols, and in some regions they even functioned as a medium of exchange. Holding these beads today provides a tangible connection to the commercial world described in the historical sources, small objects, but part of a much larger Atlantic story. Today, there are entire communities of collectors and researchers who study these trade beads. Museums, archaeologists, collectors, and bead societies classify them by age, manufacturing technique, color, and where they have been found. These small objects continue to help researchers reconstruct centuries-old trade networks. While merchant ships crossed the Atlantic, life on the mainland continued in thousands of villages across the region. Families prepared meals, blacksmiths forged tools, weavers produced cloth, fishermen worked the rivers and coast, farmers cultivated the land. The societies of Senegambia were not simply places where European merchants arrived. They were long-established communities with their own economies, political systems, artisans, and traditions. Trade touched these communities in different ways. Some became important commercial centers. Others supplied food, textiles, ironwork, or other goods that entered wider regional markets. To understand the Atlantic world, we have to remember that behind every map and every merchant contract were ordinary people living their daily lives. The story of West Africa cannot be reduced to a single trade, a single people, or a single narrative. The maps reveal organized kingdoms. Merchant contracts reveal commercial networks. Archaeological artifacts reveal objects that crossed oceans. And the documentary record introduces us to merchants, artisans, rulers, navigators, and ordinary families whose lives became connected through the Atlantic world. Each source adds another piece to the picture. Some questions are answered, others remain open. How did geography shape these commercial networks? How important were African political institutions in directing trade? How did intermediary communities such as the Lançados bridge two very different worlds? And what other stories remain hidden within merchant ledgers, shipping manifests, maps, and parish records? History is rarely as simple as a single narrative. It is a conversation between documents, maps, artifacts, and the people who left them behind. One of the primary works that informed this documentary is The Forgotten Diaspora, Jewish Communities in West Africa and the Making of the Atlantic World, Cambridge University Press. Authors, Peter Mark and Jose da Silva Horta. If you'd like to read this foundational academic work behind today's documentary, I've placed a link to The Forgotten Diaspora in the description below. The next episode follows these merchant networks back across the Atlantic, tracing the story from the Sephardic expulsions in Iberia to Amsterdam, to Cromwell's England, and into the wider Atlantic world. For extended research, primary source collections, historic maps, and documentary companion articles. Visit the B1 Decoded Library on Substack. Until next time, follow the sources, read the records, and decide for yourself.